Hi everybody, this is Danny, and I'm going to bring Bryce in to do a live video real quick, just to share a little bit in terms of the impact of bullying and also team suicide. Let's see if I have Bryce. Hey guys, can you hear me okay? Hey Bryce, actually, can you turn your camera vertical?
No.
Pretty please? There we go. Okay.
I had it all set up thinking it was going to be the other way. Oh, see, there we go.
Thank
All
you.
righty,
Yeah.
I guess we're going to do this then.
Yeah, I guess
So
with
let me unhook
Facebook,
this whole
it's
thing up here.
they like better this way. Hi.
Oh, we're going to have the great Wi-Fi set up
Okay.
here, huh? We're
Well,
all going
thank
to
you so
lock
much
up here.
for okay. Here,
We're in freeze mode here. I don't know if it's on my end or your end.
I'm not sure. I'm hopping on Wi-Fi
We're
right
glitching out here.
now. Okay, I can hear you. Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you come in and out.
Oh, really? Okay, sounds good. Maybe I will talk less then, if that's the case. So,
No, you're doing good now.
okay, awesome. So the reason why I want to bring you guys in on this call is because as we continue to raise awareness, I think we all can agree there is a lot of different reasons that cause people who, decide to end their own life. And I know that you guys have been impacted by it. So I appreciate you taking the moment, kind of share with us a little bit, but we don't have to go into detail if you don't want to, whatever makes you guys comfortable. And I think at the end of the day, the goal really is that there are still a lot of people who are struggling out there, being impacted by bullying, cyberbullying, and stuff like that. And perhaps that
Yeah.
you guys can share a little bit in terms of words of encouragement and help these folks who are still struggling, right? And hopefully that they can make better decisions rather than take their own
Mhm.
life. Would that be okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can knock it around a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, the goal is to, we're not going to be able to help everybody, but whoever we can help, right? I think that is what we're looking to
Yeah.
do. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if
Sounds
they
good.
decide to make that decision, I mean, they have free will to do it. We can't stop them if they're in that mindset that that's their answer. Being
Sure.
young and teenagers, they may not know that there's other avenues out there because the school certainly doesn't provide any information or help in any way. They pretty much sweep it under the carpet because they want to be the perfect school and they don't want any issues about bullying or suicide or anything. They just turn a blind eye to. With us, it was 7 years.
So
And
can
with others that we know, it's gone on for 20 years here.
so can you tell me a little bit about 7 years? When you say 7 years, what do you mean by that?
He started getting, bullied in elementary school.
Oh wow. Okay.
And of course, being in a small town, the next school up, you don't get your choice of where I want to go to junior high. It's boom, there's one. So that same group followed him, and, it just got worse and worse and worse. And we would bring it up to the principal about, we have issues here. Please keep an eye on them. And it just, anytime there was an incident, their policy said, oh, they call the parent first, do the paperwork, and all the parties get together. But the schools and the Iron County school board system say it, but they don't do it.
Okay.
He always came home and told us what happened, or he came home with a black eye or a concussion one time and torn ligaments. And it was up to us to call the school the next day to go, what the heck happened here? And
Okay.
then they would just go, oh, there was a little altercation, but everything's okay now. And I'm like, no, you don't tell a parent your kid got hit or beat up, everything's okay now. So it's just through all those years and the reports, I would call the police. They do the investigation, and it was always my son's word against the bully and his little gang of friends. So they corroborated each other's story, and it was a no-win situation. And the cops sometimes tried to do stuff for us, but in the long run, it just gets pushed under the table. They don't want a black image on the school system here.
Got it.
So we went up to the school board and explained all of it, and I got mad, of course. They called the cops on me, and the police officers that showed up knew us, and they said, basically, one of them said, "I'm not going to stop you." They were on our side. He was actually going to retire that year because he was done with the suicides and the way things worked in this town.
Yeah.
So the school system says their policy is everything is in place, and all these memos and everything they're supposed to do, they don't do. And the end of the meeting, even though the superintendent there kept pushing everybody off, he had a schedule on his meetings, and when we brought up my son's death and other parents came up and stood up for us, he kept looking at his watch and said, "We have other things to do. Let's move this on. We have address other issues." And that made the crowd go crazy. Everybody stood up and started talking about 20 years of the same thing, the bullying and the ignorance, and not really listening to the parents. And these were parents that were bullied in the same school system.
Yeah.
So, you know, uh, good thing you didn't hear
Sorry.
that phone
Sorry, you
ring.
actually cut out a little bit, so I didn't hear you, Bryce. Sorry.
Oh, but in the summation of the school board, their answer was, let's do more studies, let's do research, let's get a group with the parents together. And it's like, there's nothing to get together. Everyone's got their personal space. And I told them too, I'll come up, if I punch you in the face, you're going to call a cop on me, and I'm going to leave in handcuffs, and we're going to court. I said, why can't that be done to our kids as well? Teach these bullies a lesson to say, you lay hands on somebody, you're going to suffer the consequences. That was, that's too easy. So they have a zero policy on fighting, a zero policy on everything, but when it came to bullying, they just, to me and a lot of the others, they just ignored it. It was just not a big deal to them. They wanted to keep their number one educational academic standing in Iron County in the state. They want to keep their number one standing in the state as one of the best schools around, so they didn't want to accept or make any reports of bullying and the suicides that happen.
Yeah. And if I hear you
So
correct,
that's where we're at right now.
yeah. If
Go
I,
ahead and talk.
Your turn.
yeah, sorry. And if I hear you correctly, what I'm hearing is that a lot of time with physical altercation, there is mark, so people can deal with it. But a lot of bullying is mental scar that people cannot see, which actually cause probably more damage than anything
Yeah.
else, right? The invisible
Yeah.
typically costs more than the physical. I mean, I got into an accident on a bike, right, and a little banged up, and it's fixable in a few days, in a few weeks, it's gone, right? But
Mhm.
what we're talking about here really is that cyberbullying or just bullying amongst kids and stuff like that. A lot of time we
Yeah.
can
And
see.
the social media, yeah, it just spreads so fast. And then they take that load on of being the bad guy. And then when they try and defend themselves, nobody cares because they already made their mind up on the gossip that's been put out there on Facebook and them texting back and forth that you can't defend yourself then.
Sure.
You're just the school moron, you're the bully, not the bully of course, but you're just the asshole, if I may. I won't get too colorful in my language, but that's what he would come home with too. He would just come home just all sad and depressed. Yeah, and we're like you say, no scars, but it was just what happened or who did this, and he was a very special kid and helped out a lot of people. Um, like,
If I may speak, what I've learned here is it's the sensitive, the smart kids,
yeah,
and
they get singled
the
out.
very sensitive kids that end up taking their own lives. We say they're the ones that have the special souls. You know, they're the nice kids.
They care
And
about what people say. They're not one of those kids that like, oh, whatever, right? They are
Yeah.
sensitive. In fact, they're maybe even hypersensitive. They care. They're
He took it
considerate.
to heart, yeah. And it was like, what am I doing wrong type thing. And it was
Right.
like, you're not them, just chill out, relax. Tomorrow's another day.
Sure.
But it just, yeah, it's not so much he was bullied physically a lot. He was jumped a few times. He had a
hey,
knife
baby.
pulled on him for no reason. Some kid just said, I'm going to stab you, went outside and came back with a knife. And my son just had his arms folded and was like, are you nuts? He wasn't afraid. But on the mental aspect, yeah, he helped a lot of kids. He would come in early, help them with their homework. Uh, he was in band, so that puts the nerd label on you. Uh, he was in robotics. Again, that might put the nerd label on you. But he excelled in all of that, and all the teachers loved him. He had 4 colleges giving him a scholarship. A medical school in Washington, D.C., invited him the summer of his death to stay with them on their dime for the whole summer to walk through their campus to see if he wanted to, become what is it? He wanted to be a bioengineer type system. Even the Marines were interested in him. We got the phone rang off the hook for all his future.
I
And
hear you.
that's what
And
I've learned with all my grieving groups is it's those kids, those kind of kids, the and I'm gonna say the good looking kids, the smart kids, the sensitive kids that are taking their own lives because
Sure.
they're bullied. Different.
Right. And while we might not seems to be paying enough attention to it, maybe we don't talk enough about it, or school, and I don't want to get in too much into it. At the end of the day, we definitely want to stay on the positive and productive side of things too. But the truth is the numbers don't lie, right? The numbers
yeah,
with all these kids that we're losing due to bullying or whatnot. I know that in actually on this call, a couple of our viewers in here actually have some experience as well that have lost kids to
hmm
suicide. So the numbers don't
yeah.
lie, right? At the end of the day,
It's a suicide, and I don't know what it is. Cutting. It just he had so many friends that cut themselves, and he talked them through, and they wanted to die and commit suicide. He took all that on. A 15 and 16-year-old. He took it all on. He was the counselor for half the school for these kids. Because and so. He had all that going on him, which no one deserves. And we didn't know about it until his death. We had the whole town show up, and everybody was on our side. That support now is everyone's gone. It's a flash in the pan, and we don't have the backing anymore. But many parents came up and said he saved my daughter's life or he saved my son's life. They were doing this. They had the gun, they had the knife, whatever, and just through him, they they sought the help they needed, but he was a big part in starting them on that way to, hey, there's another answer. But I
right?
think it just too much for him, and being as sensitive and caring as he was, he was done.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's I cannot imagine how overwhelming it was for him to experience what he experienced, and I cannot imagine how overwhelming for you and frustrating for you as parents to experience the loss. And at the end of the day, I think we all can agree that something is broken. I mean, exactly what's broken,
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody has different opinion about it, but the fact is something is broken. Otherwise, we wouldn't be losing all these kids left and right. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
if everyone got
it's
together and sustained a movement, but it's just usually the parents that try and sustain it, but we don't know all the avenues. And you try and contact other people, and they go, "Yeah, that happened to me too," and we feel the same way. But we talk to each other. It doesn't go anywhere. And the rest of society, if they're in their perfect little bubble, they don't care. So either we have to force the schools to set the assemblies,
Yeah.
get it out there, show some graphic stuff. You know, it's just all this political correct stuff, and the school figures if I put a poster up that says "Don't bully" for the month of May, they're done. You know, they've done their state quota of what they have to do, and their hands are free. You know, they go home and sleep. They've done their job, and it doesn't work that way. This is a 24/7 issue.
In our day, we talked about bullying. It's not allowed to be talked about here. You don't talk about bullying. Suicide is forbidden to be spoke about in schools. It's
Yeah,
something that these kids need to learn, even
one couple
to
teachers.
to see. You know, as he
Yeah,
said, he goes, "It'll all be over in 2 hours." Somebody, one of those kids, should have known.
yeah, that was a
And
warning to tell somebody, hey,
there's
he
not.
said it's going to be over with in a couple hours,
What
and
does that
it was
mean?
over in a couple hours.
Yeah, what does that mean, right?
You
Yeah.
know,
And I
And
think you hit the nail in the head on the head in terms of, sorry, me and my English, I'm
I know
working
we
on it.
talked.
But one of the things, so I just pedaled in from Heber City into Duchesne today. And what was interesting is, so I was over at Family Dollar, just grabbing something to drink after my day of ride. I bump into this lady, and she starts sharing with me about her daughter tried to kill herself about a year or so ago. And I'm really glad to hear that she's doing okay. She's still struggling, but she's getting help. She went to the mental hospital, and the parent, the gal that I spoke with, actually was kind of there as well, learning because a lot of things that we don't know, and part of it is kind of like what you guys are talking about is when someone says something like that, someone should have caught it, right? Is what
Yeah,
does that mean? It will all end in 2 hours, right? And so that was something that I heard from her that they have booklets, paper, that they work on in terms of program that, hey, when something
hmm
happens, this is what's going to be the next step. That way that they can keep an eye because life will always be hard, and I'm just speaking in terms of
oh
them,
yeah,
right? And there will be triggers left and right. And it's good that now that they're educated, now that they have understanding, okay, this is real. We're not going to pretend that, oh, this is dumb, just suck it up kind of thing, right? If someone says something, we're going to take it very seriously and we're going to do what is necessary. Hey, we need to check in and make sure that everything is okay. We're not going to let accident happen, right? Because a lot of time
yeah,
it feels like we're neglecting some of the warning signs until it's too late. Whereas,
yeah,
sometimes we talk about prevention and sometimes we can prevent, but in the event that it could be prevented, like what you're talking about, what does it mean that it's all going to end in 2 hours? Like that is for
hmm
people who has been talking about this, we kind of know something is wrong, right? But for people who
yeah,
yeah.
never
he
really
did.
think about
And he
it,
wasn't a loner. He was. I mean, he volunteered for all kinds of things in school. I mean, he was uh, everybody's friend. I mean,
But
what
he kept
you
he
know?
kept his personal feelings to himself when it came to home and to us. We didn't know how he was feeling, what he was saying at school, and
yeah,
we didn't even know he said that until after he'd passed. So, it's like
Yeah, not to
sometimes you
bother us,
don't
I guess.
know
It's just
that it's going to happen.
I
You
hear
just
you.
have to keep,
Right.
it's hard to tell. So it's,
And when people are
I just
struggling,
lost my mom, so I thought he was depressed, a little sad because his grandma had just passed away. So it's hard to tell.
I hear you. In quantity, a lot of time when people are struggling, they're very good at hiding their feelings, right? They're very good at just keeping it to themselves or isolate themselves. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes,
yeah,
right? And definitely, I think that, kind of like what we are talking about earlier is, hey, as we become more aware, right? Because before I started all this in terms of raising awareness, I didn't really know a whole lot about, the struggles, meaning,
hmm
some of the signs and also in terms of suicide. I didn't know anything about that, and I had to really be educated on the subject. But the more that we talk about it, the more that we're aware, and the more that we take it seriously versus, because where did I hear this from? I cannot remember. I apologize. I've been having so many conversations and they're starting to
I
blend together. It's
think
really
you started.
challenging for me. Yeah. And, sometimes people don't take it Oh, I remember where this was. So I was talking to a mom, right? And I was talking to a mom, and she was sharing with me that she is struggling, and she is, every time when she had a kid, she would struggle, right? And a lot of time she would kind of voice it out, but people might not take it seriously, but she was struggling, right? Until someone actually take it seriously and she got the help that she needed it, right? And so the point of
Yeah.
me mentioning that is sometimes we as a society that we don't take it as serious as we should, maybe, right? And also sometimes, yeah, we have those people who kind of whine a little bit, even it's not a big deal. We have those too, right? But the truth is, maybe that's the beginning of something more serious. And if we're able to kind of pay a little bit more attention, not to say that we need to feed off on it or anything like that, but hey, is there something really wrong here? Maybe that we do need to address it, right? Because sometimes,
Yeah.
again, going back, teen suicide has been, I don't know the stats. I don't know if you guys know the stats, but the number is staggering and it's not good, right? And
Yeah,
so,
it's spreading. It's just like the new thing to do, it seems like. I mean, when I grew up, I may have been, I don't think I was a big bully. I got bullied, but it was an incident. It was done with, and everyone moved on. The next day, everyone was friends again, and then you went through life. Now, if that same incident would last, oh my God, for days
sure.
and weeks, and everybody's enemy,
And our
on you
society,
and harassing you, it's so different now. And
yeah,
that's the thing. And
and the
and Utah, like
society
you
is,
said, the statistic, Utah is number one. Teen suicide is the number one cause of death in the state, and
wow,
it keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. Between, I think it's 13 and 17. I don't know. It's a small window of the years, but it's just the teenagers that it's just staggering. It's the number one killer.
right.
And I
And
don't know if it's because there's so many more kids in school nowadays and the schools are bigger. I bet there are a lot more kids in schools nowadays. And they gang
And
up,
I think
you
mhm.
know,
sorry, yeah, and I don't know if you would agree, but I think this is something that I just listened to a radio of yesterday actually, and I learned that sometimes people are idolizing some of these ideologies, right? And now with the technology, with the access to information, I hate to say, but I don't know if it's true that some people, and not just kids alone, right? Even adults, sometimes we idolize these ideologies. And
Yeah,
so that could be
it's
another thing
just, you
too.
don't get it. It's like what the heck?
Right. And also we talked
Uh,
about, how life is overwhelming. And just like you said, I remember when I was in junior high, I got bullied. And after a while, we just let it go and we move on. Not to say that we need to, or nowadays people cannot move on, but the truth is it seems like it's so overwhelming. And that's the truth,
hmm
right? It doesn't matter how, if people are different, society is different, it doesn't matter. It's so overwhelming to a point that people are willing to take their own life,
Yeah,
right?
and an adult may be able to handle that, but a 13-year-old or a 10-year-old, they don't know what to do. They don't know that there's other options or people to talk to.
Sure.
It's just a shame, if that was addressed more in school, to say you got an issue, throw it out there. Yeah, our schools out here now, they don't even have student counselors anymore. When I went to high school and junior high, there were like 5 counselors for 300 kids. They went all depending on your last name. And anytime you needed to, boom, they were there. You went in, even if you had to miss class, they gave you the pass. You went in, you talked, and you figured things out. There's there's zero here now, so
Hmm.
there's nobody they can turn to. We got
Who's
a
the
kid here.
beautiful baby?
That's the thing that's breaking up our tears from every once in a while is this little thing running around.
That's good.
And
There's
she'll be
still
leaving
hope.
next week, so we'll be back to sitting on the couch crying. But right now, we're doing okay with this little thing.
I know. Yeah. Little hope, right? Little hope
But
in
that
life.
that's the thing. It's just the kids in school, they have no one. And if they do turn to someone, then they're a snitch. It just adds more problems to an issue. So it's a no-win situation for these poor kids.
And I think that's part of the raising awareness, right? Perhaps we should have these
Yeah,
conversations and say, you know what? Raising issues is not a snitch. In fact, right? I mean, there
yeah.
are people, there
It
are the
saves a
kids
life,
being
maybe.
bullied, right? It's a life save. It's a what do you call those things that you toss out in the pool?
Uh, yeah, a duck? No,
No, not a
a
duck.
lifesaver, a life ring,
There we go, right? It's there.
a brick.
Not a brick. Yeah, thank you, Bryce. You're very helpful. No, but I think there are some certain ideas that are so distorted nowadays, right? Meaning that people being sensitive, it's being looked at as a bad thing, right? Meaning being
Yeah.
soft or whatever it is. It's so distorted. But the truth
Hmm.
is, yeah, sensitive is not a bad thing. I mean, some people could be more sensitive than others. Okay, I'm not gonna say if it's good or bad, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But yet we start labeling everything nowadays, which is very unnecessary, right? And so for those people who are still struggles, right, at the end of the day, as we continue to raise awareness, how can we share a few words of encouragement and help them out, right? Because at the end of the day, what's the point of all these awareness, right? The awareness is so that we can help these people,
Yeah.
adults or kids, that maybe there's some hope. Yes.
Yeah, I think about that, and it's just that's a tough one. If the kids would come home and let their parent know, get more parents involved, just don't end your life because if there's any kids listening that are thinking about that, you know, in a moment of despair, yeah, you're out of pain, but the rest of the people that survive you, it's just a living hell until you carry that guilt and burden that what did you do wrong the rest of your lives. So I know that's stupid to say, if someone's in despair, don't, how dare you, think about me instead of you. It kind of sounds selfish, but I think they need to speak to
They need to know
not the
there's somebody
teachers,
out there to
yeah,
reach out to. There's
come home and
somebody who
talk about it
cares.
because us as parents, when we found out about it, we got on everybody's face. We went to the school, we called the cops, we did everything we could, but unfortunately it still wasn't enough. But I think if more and more people would, I don't think the schools want to see a cop car in front of their school every day. And in this place there would be a cop car there 3 4 times a day with these high schools, the two that we have here. They're terrible on the bullying situation. And we hear stories. We have two pages on Facebook for our son, and we have people all the time going, "This is what happened today," and "This is my daughter got beat up today here," and the teachers don't do anything. They just walk away. It's incredible. Nobody wants to get involved, and that's the problem. So all these kids have to deal with everything all by themselves
I hear
because
you.
they got no place to turn to.
So if I hear you correctly, what you're suggesting is perhaps more communication, and also when we communicate, we take it seriously, right? Because
Yeah.
it's I am guilty of that for not communicating enough. In fact, my folks and I, we haven't really communicated a whole lot, and I think this is a lesson for all of us, right? Is first of
Hmm.
all, we want to be able to provide that safe environment, would you say, that they are comfortable to share and communicate
Hmm.
without feeling like, hey, I'm gonna say something, I'm gonna be judged, or
Yeah,
people
you're
get
gonna get
looked
that
at as
label.
stupid, or whatever it is, right? So they're comfortable sharing. And when they do share, yeah, we can take a look at it seriously. Again,
Well, see, talking to me is the old saying, talk is cheap. I'm a person of action. I'll get in their face. There's so many kids I want to take out and wring their necks, but unless they're 18, I can't do anything about it. But the problem is we can talk and they can talk, but there's no action. The
sure,
adults, there's zero tolerance with all these schools, but they don't do zero tolerance on bullying.
sure,
It should be an immediate suspension, or just like a business where you're suspended pending an investigation. And then if it's a he said, she said, then you apologize and all the kids go back to school again. But they need to know right then and there. You touch, you hit, you smash a face into a wall, you're a cop's bringing you down to the station.
yeah,
Whether it's a scare tactic or they spend the night in juvie, I don't give a shit. But that's what the schools need to do. And they're just, excuse me, a bunch of pussies. They want to take care of their future. They don't want to rock the boat. They want to retire and move on. They could give two shits about what happens to their kids. Some teachers are. No, I take that back. We've had a few that just adore Jason. And here's one thing that we probably forgot to mention is when he died the very next day, the school forbade the students to talk about suicide or Jason's death. Some of the girls that actually went to the hallways and cried and talked about Jason got called to the office to say, you're disrupting the school day, knock it off. That's how the schools handle it out here. One couple teachers that knew Jason from a little boy, they told the kids, you want to cry, you want to talk, you want to do anything, go for it. But pretty much the school was just hush, do not, because they told the kids, if you talk about suicide, you'll promote suicide. And it was like, are you kidding me? We
yeah,
pay these adults to come up and give this information to their students. Don't talk about it because it'll happen.
And
yeah.
I just want everybody to know there is somebody that cares. There's somebody out there
There
to
are.
reach out.
There are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of reason why we're having these conversations. If nobody cares, then we wouldn't even waste the time to have these conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if nobody cares, for example, all these out of darkness walk, they would not take place. Obviously, somebody cared.
Yeah.
A lot of people care. Right now, is it
Yeah.
enough? Maybe, maybe not, right? But definitely, I think doesn't matter if it's going to work or not, right? We're just going to have to keep doing and keep trying,
Yeah.
right? Because not trying is not going to help. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's painful for the parents that have to continue the battle because you just relive it every day. People tell you to move on and he's in a better place, but you know what? Go F yourself. He may be in a better place, but we relive that day every night, so we can't move on.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. I know a lot of time people wanted to help and say things to comfort, and yet the
Yeah.
intent is there, but the words just doesn't deliver quite right. And quite honestly,
Yeah.
we are not in your shoes. We would never know. We were never there when he passed. We will never
Yeah.
understand. And so,
But I guess what I'm saying is,
yeah,
in long story short, is the tools are in place. They've been in place for years. The school won't enforce them. We were told by the superintendent, they got the policies, all the memos are out, and this is how it takes, and this is what we do, and this is what happens. And it's not. And then they want to research more. It's like, no, do it.
These
Just,
kids
it's
are
so
afraid to
simple.
speak up. The kids are afraid to speak up. The ones that are hurting. That's the issue that I'm facing with.
and I
You know,
hear
it's
you. And so we all can, I mean, can we all agree that changes sometimes just take forever? Can we agree?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yes.
It's as
unfortunately,
simple as one change.
yeah, unfortunately, it's not something that we can force, and definitely doesn't mean that we need to stop trying, right? We still need to keep
Yeah. Oh,
doing what
yeah.
needs to be done so that
But
maybe
it takes the
something,
wind out of your sails,
I
when you
know,
hit that wall day after day. We've been doing it for 2 years.
It's
You know,
all,
and these other parents, you know, that have been doing it for 6 and 8 years, you know, when you're fighting the system, just out of attrition, you're gonna lose. You know, you're fighting Big Brother, and it doesn't work.
well,
There's too many deaf ears upstate.
I hear you, Bryce. And hopefully that there is enough support group to support you guys, right? And also stand with you guys and fight with you guys because I hear you. It's frustrating, it's agitating, but by the way, I'm not a big history buff, so I'm not going to pretend to be one, but I mean, we have seen changes in history, right?
Yeah,
And we definitely can agree changes can be made, but the process of making those changes could be very extremely painful, right? It could be very
yeah,
extremely painful. And
and
I,
it's a shame because, like I said, they got the tools right now to do it. All it takes is one phone call, you're done. But I just don't see why they just can't enforce their own zero tolerance policies.
you know
My other
why?
son, when he was my other son, you know, if they got involved in a fight, even if you were defending yourself, you both were suspended for 3 days,
Yeah,
no matter what, because the teacher saw two kids throwing two punches. You're both guilty. So it's that's a lot of things too. The kids say, if I defend myself, I'm still going to get in trouble.
right.
It's just archaic on the rules that these schools have for their zero tolerance. You know, you can't even defend yourself,
Right.
and that's the battle. That's the mentality that we have to deal with, and a lot of parents have to deal with.
Sure. And I think we all can agree the system is somewhat broken,
Big
and
time.
it's definitely worth for us to pay attention to, right? People who care about the subject, caring parents like yourself, right? People like myself, even I don't have kids, but we're going to do the best we can. We're going to keep raising awareness. Again, I understand talking is one thing, but action is another. But sometimes action has a
Yeah.
delay, and I hate to say, I mean, I can go to bed with you. I don't know how much difference it's gonna make. And I'm just gonna be honest, right? But I think the more people are aware, the more parents are aware, hey, you know what, this is not okay. I mean, when is this gonna stop, right? At how many more
Yeah.
kids' lives expense, right? At what kind of expense are we going to take until we're okay with
And
that?
at your more kids, it's not a couple. You're probably talking hundreds.
I know,
You know,
I know.
or even more than that. I mean, I'm just talking for our state, the country. Yeah, you're
Sure.
into the four digits easily.
I bet. And I mean, what are the odds that I just write into Duchesne and I talk to one person and she shared with me that her kids is struggling, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the numbers are out there, right? And we don't need a hard number to really know something is wrong. We don't need to, right? And so I think part of it is perhaps that we can encourage our kids, our next generation, that, you know what, there are going to be bullies out there. There are going to be kids, and school teacher system might not always work, right? But whatever they're feeling, they're not alone, right? And perhaps that
Yeah.
they can reach out to people, and maybe people around them might not get it, right? And perhaps really when they are really struggling, and maybe even before they get to that, right? And that's part of the whole purpose of me raising awareness is that we can start having these conversations before we even get to a point that we need help, and so that we know those resources available. Hey, there might be counseling not in school but organization that might be able to help. And when we're in that situation, we can say, you know what, the school, they don't get it. Okay, maybe our parents might not even get it, right? But hey, I remember that we heard about something from someone talking about this, right? And hopefully that we can reach them before they go over that threshold. And when that they're in that situation, that they have that opportunity and place to go
Hmm.
that is safe, that people will take them seriously, that they can open up and just vent, maybe even just that, right? And know that,
And
hey,
feel safe.
what's that?
And to feel safe and be able to open up and feel safe while they're doing it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Knowing that people won't judge them or say, oh, you're being too sensitive, right? Because how often do we hear something like that?
Yeah.
But the truth is, in a safe environment, that people won't judge. People are just, we just want to help, right? We want to make sure that we be available to help those people who are struggling.
But it's unfortunate that the victims are the ones that we have to help. It's the bullies themselves pretty much reflect what the parents are. When we had that conversation before you were on the air about we still have the kids, the son, the daughter, and even the father that give us the stink eye and if looks could kill type thing, and then we're like, what the heck? We didn't do anything, but it's just, and they encourage it, and it's just a crack up that these parents don't care what their kids do to other kids. That's where it's got to be. There was one bill going up, but it wasn't on this state, but another state. It made the parents completely responsible, I think criminally even, for the actions of their kids in school. That was a great plan, and I think it curtailed a lot of the problems. I can't think of the state. It was back east, Midwest somewhere. And we were in touch with this lady, and it was whatever the bill was that she was trying to get it for Utah as well. But I don't think it got enough signatures.
It was the same state that had the shooting, the big school shooting.
Either Sandy Hook or Colorado. But it was one of them that wherever it was, it passed with flying colors. But,
I hear you.
Blood was still in the water, so to speak. But that's what we need too is
accountability.
Make the parents completely criminally responsible.
And also, the other thing is sometimes, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate. I'm not for or against, but sometimes some parents don't even know what's going on, right? Like for example, some parents, and again, this is just me putting it out there that they're working so hard. Anyway. What's that? Oh yeah. Right, like some parent, they're working so hard, single parent, having to work.
Oh yeah, I know that.
And they don't know what's happening in their kid's life. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't have capacity to care. And I think the issue here that we all can agree is the system, the people. There is a lot of generation of something broken, right? And even those parents, they might be a little bit messed up, but guess what? Where did they learn that from? Probably from their own parents too, right? So we're talking about multi-generations of problems here. That is so big. It doesn't mean that we should not deal with it, but it's so big that and we have to look at what we have in front of us and maybe focus on what we have in front of us, like you said, accountability, and also helping our next generation or just people who are struggling. Hey, you know what? Maybe sometimes we just need to stop caring about what other people say because people might not understand.
Oh yeah, that's it. It's nothing. You're a kid. Don't worry about it. But they just can't let it roll off their back. It's nothing. It's stupid sometimes.
It's the soft-hearted kids, and that's the thing I've learned. It is the soft, sensitive kids that are taking their own lives, and it's just because they let it all go to their heart, and it's sad.
Yeah, someone said I'm not pretty, so you're going to kill yourself. It's like, oh, come on, there's got to be another answer out there than hanging yourself because someone said you're ugly, and you see these pictures of these beautiful kids. It's like, look in the mirror, man. You're not.
And it's ridiculous. And I think that is the message that we're talking about here, right? Is that help not just our next generation, even people in our age, in our generation, right? That people who kill themselves, they are having a hard time. For example, I talk to people, they say, I feel like I'm not good enough as a mom. I said, you're an amazing mom. The fact that you feel that way probably make you amazing, right? And so,
yeah.
Okay. Right?
Even we do the same thing. We relive that night, and even the therapists were saying, don't fall into that what if, what if I, could I change this? Could I change that? And of course,
right.
That doesn't go away. We go outside and talk to our son every night and apologize.
I know it hurts. And I think at the end of the day, most of us, I would say majority, most of us are trying really hard in our life, right? And we don't always hit the mark. right? For example, I'll
Yeah.
just use myself as an example, right? This whole ride has been challenging for me. There are days that I wonder myself, man, am I raising enough awareness? What am I doing? Right? And at the end
Hmm.
of the day, I have to really remind myself, well, even if it's not enough, right? I'm doing the best I can, and I have to be okay with that, right? Being so
Yeah.
hard on myself, it's not gonna help me doing any better. If I need to do more, do more. And just like parents, or just like anything, right? Like for example, the lady
Hmm.
that I talked to, if she feel like she's not doing enough, okay, do more, right? If she is doing as much as she can, hey, that's okay, right? Because
Yeah.
it's life is hard. Life is hard, right? And the thought
Well,
of
that's why we
having,
try to tell ourselves too, and I have my talks with True, because she more so being the mother, there's a much stronger bond, and it's her little baby and all that stuff.
of course,
But that's all she talks about during the day sometimes is what if I done this? What if I did this? And I'm no therapist, but you just can't say you got to stop saying that because, blah blah blah. But it just
there comes
her
the
little
baby.
yeah, a little blah 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 there, huh, Brittany?
Hi, baby.
Say hi.
Hi. Hi. She's adorable.
Yeah, we're thinking of kidnapping her.
There we go. Don't tell the
Yeah, she
parents.
goes back home next weekend. We've had her for 2 weeks, so
There we go.
she really breaks up monotony here.
It's
Oh,
good.
there she is. Gonna join the crowd now, huh?
There we go. Hi, little. Yeah,
So,
and I think we all can agree that sometimes we put a little bit too much stress and pressure, right? And by
yeah.
the way, is Megan your daughter?
You're my daughter-in-law.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is
okay.
her
There we
child.
go. Okay, that's your daughter. Okay, there we go.
Hi, Megan.
Yeah. Right. And so I think we all can agree sometimes that we put a little bit too much stress and pressure on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Everybody. And perhaps what we're saying is, especially with those who are struggling, that we're trying to share is maybe just take a break. Maybe we need to take better care of ourselves, right? And
Hmm.
maybe we need to be kinder to ourselves and not be so hard, right? For example, that lady that I
Yeah.
spoke with, man, so much pressure. The fact that she loves so much about her children tells me that she's a great mom. And maybe she can be,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's for me to say, but maybe she can be a little bit kinder to herself, right? And
Yeah.
and just like the people, right? Even people being bullied. Yeah, there are going to be people saying things. Unfortunately, we just can't stop people from saying things. Sorry, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, we can try to work on so that we as a society have a better understanding and be more, a little bit more sensitive and be kinder to each
Yeah. You're not
other.
going to abolish it. Bullying's going to be
Sure,
there, and until God comes back,
they will.
But it is what it is. It's just like True said. It's just the more sensitive kids, maybe again at that younger age, don't know the other outlets that they can try, and they just hold it to themselves, and then don't want to bother anybody else, with their and worry them. I think that's what happened with our son is just uh, being sensitive, helping all these other kids, doesn't want to burden us, and no one at that age has to take that enormous kind of weight on their shoulders.
Or anybody,
Uh, yeah,
anybody,
yeah,
right? And I totally agree with you. And I think at the end of the day is maybe we can learn to be kinder to ourselves and say, you know what, that, people will say things, but it's not true, right? It's not true. And
hmm,
also a lot of time, those sensitive people who care, want to give, and it's important for us to remember that we need to remember to take good care of ourselves too, because we can't give
yeah,
what we don't have. And this is something that I say. It breaks my heart sometimes that those of us who are caring and loving, we give and give and give and give and give. And I'm really afraid that people, as they give, they left themselves behind.
yeah,
Right? Not to say that is the case, but it scares me a little bit, and I have to remind myself that as well, right? And so I think for those people who are still out there who are struggling or knowing people who are struggling, right? It's
Mhm.
we study English, we study math, we study science, we study chemistry, we study a lot of stuff in school. Maybe we ought to have a little bit of education on self-care.
Yeah.
A little bit of that education on, hey, it's important that we take better care of ourselves. And not, there's a huge difference between self-care and selfish, right? At the end of the day, for those of us who are ultra sensitive, who do not want to be a burden to other people, guess what? That makes self-care even more important.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Even more important, right? Because we obviously care about the impact that we have on other people, right? And the truth is, if we forget to take care of ourselves, then we become a problem. Then we really become a burden to other people, right? And I don't want to say it in a way that it creates so much stress and pressure because that's not the goal. But the truth
Well,
is,
if kids had a maybe a neutral party, like I don't know if they're just phasing out counselors altogether, but if they had someone who wasn't as biased and just took it in, and then that person would have been the outlet for them to communicate with us with the confidentiality going on, then maybe we would have been more aware of what was going on and could pull him aside and kind of
A little bit more help for
yeah,
him.
not broach the topic, not directly to say, aha, the counselor ratted you out, but somehow come up with another answer to at least not have a suicide be the answer or the outcome for his problems,
exactly.
and it's unfortunate that they stopped counselors years ago in these schools. Uh, but I think, yeah, if these kids could have a safe place. Now, I can't stand liberals in the safe place and all these things, but uh, yeah, the kids, if they're too afraid to go to the parents, they got to go somewhere, and they can't go to their other friends because that just doesn't work. They don't have the knowledge either. And of course, I'm sure this couple of his friends kind of knew what was going on, and they would talk and everything. We got wind of some of the conversation, but it wasn't really enough to go, hey, what's going on here. And of course, we found out that after the fact that he did talk to some of the kids, but the kids didn't bother talking to us because they thought, oh, I owe it to Jason to be quiet. He talked to me, so I'm not going to share it with their parents. And that doesn't help. You can't have a teenager help a teenager without,
Well, that's where the teaching comes involved at
yeah.
school too.
Exactly, right? And that's the portion of education, right? If we care about a friend, if we know that they're in trouble, guess what? Maybe we ought to seek out for help,
Yeah, you got him. Throw it
right?
out
That's
there,
how
yeah.
you watch their six, right? If you want to
Mm-hmm.
watch their back, then we take it seriously and we get the help because we know that we're not going to compromise our trust in a relationship and at the expense of a life. It's not. I see the cat. Yeah, I it's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want it to be at the expense of a life. That price
Yeah.
is too great to pay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth it, right? And just like what we said, if we really care, if we're really good friends, we tell somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that
Yeah.
is the right thing to do. That is the right thing to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
But they feel honor bound, and it's like, come on, you're kids, tell a parent.
And
You
that's the
do it on. You don't have the answers.
yeah, and that's the portion of education that we're talking about raising awareness and education. Hey, there are certain
Mm-hmm.
things that it's pretty serious, probably, right? And so that if we are not able to, hey, because we care, we reach out for help. Because we care, we're not going to just keep it to ourselves, because how does that help, right? And
Yeah.
that's really what we're promoting here is that, hey, there could be help, there could be hope, right? And we have to do it as a community. It's not easy. It's not never going to be easy. Let's just be honest, right?
Yeah.
But hopefully together as we raise awareness that we can create more of that safe environment, that we can have these conversations without people saying, oh, do this, do that, right? Hey, maybe we'll
Mm-hmm.
just listen for once. We'll just listen.
Yeah.
right? And give them that opportunity to share whatever is on their chest and maybe carry a little bit of weight for them or just let them leave that weight on the table,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Well, it's a battle then. It's going to be you know, it's a big hill to climb
You know what,
to get.
Bryce? It's always going to be a big hill. That's just how it is, right? I mean, what's new?
Counts. So.
Once you get past the Rockies, there'll be no more big hills.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I look forward to it. I do look forward to it. Pedaling those hills and mountains are not the funnest. But you know
Of course,
what?
flat is boring too, I tell you.
You
I've
know,
been
that's
back that
true.
way. It's like, oh, how can they live in that?
I know.
Looking at
And
cornfields.
yeah. Oh, cornfields. Talking about Nebraska, Iowa. Oh,
Yeah,
cornfields. I know
everything.
all
Oh
about
my
it.
God.
Yeah. But definitely, I think, while it's frustrating, while there is a lot, it's overwhelming, but I think there is hope. And,
Yeah.
we don't know exactly what the outcome is going to be, but we'll keep doing what we need to do, right? And quite honestly, we don't,
Appreciate what you're doing. I mean, that's, sheesh, taking that much time out and that much energy, to do this. Uh, but thank you for it, and allowing us a venue here to air our feelings and
and
beliefs and
hopefully it
thoughts.
helps some, right? I mean, we don't have solution to everything, but hopefully it helps bring a little bit of comfort. And I mean, Jason is important, right? And
Yeah.
obviously, all these people who are struggling, I mean, you've seen the shirt, or you have not seen the shirt, but you've
Yeah.
seen the picture of the shirt. And the purpose of that is to really help people remember for those who are struggling, while they feel like the world is probably better without them, that they're not important, that they're a
Hmm.
burden to someone else. Guess
Yeah.
what? That is not true. While the
Oh,
feeling is real, but it's not the truth, because if that's the truth, I would not have a shirt full of names with people telling me
exactly.
about them. After decades,
Mhm.
people passing, if they're really not that important, if the world is really better without them, people would not bother telling me. And so,
Yeah.
what is the truth? The truth is everybody is important, right? Every one of those names, every one of those people that have lost are all important. Jason is important, right? My friend Erlena is important. Everybody is
And
important.
it's more commonplace now. Everybody knows somebody, you know, who's committed suicide or a family member. It's it's just spreading like crazy, Everybody knows it's somebody now.
It's while we cannot stop it, but I think as a community, we could do better. I
Yeah.
absolutely, I mean, would you agree that we deserve better as a,
Hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, would you agree that we can do better as a community?
Oh, I think so. If you can get everybody together, yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a lot of
Definitely.
effort. I'm not talking about cakewalk, right? I'm gonna talk about me pedal my butt from coast to coast and just keep pedaling, and a lot of people who like yourself who cares about this subject, right? I mean, there
Yeah.
has been out of darkness walk across the country, and I just barely
Hmm.
learned about it. And obviously, while it's not everybody who cares, but there's a lot of people who cares about this subject very deeply
Yeah.
and very deeply impacted by it, right? And while we don't have a solution to everything, but guess what? If we can save one person at a time, it's
Yeah.
better than none. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This hits home on a lot of people that we've dealt with, even though, they don't have any suicide experience in their life or families. It seems like, yeah, it's something that it hits them as well, that they just don't want to see that kind of thing. And, of course they ask us what they can do, and it's like we don't know. Sometimes we're just at a loss to tell them, what to do. We're newbies at this. We don't have any answers. We don't know where else to go. In the beginning, we had a lot of support, and I threw out
You
some
have a
foundation
page for
pages,
Jason.
and we still get people, but it's pretty much just stories, and we feel sorry, we appreciate it, blah blah blah, but it's more of just maybe a self-help page or a talk page, but
That helps.
yeah, it helps her and a lot of the other mothers that she deals with. hundreds of them. I mean, she talks to them all day long and up until time to go to bed, you know. But any political movement or action, yeah, we're at a loss. We really don't know where to go or where to turn to get something like that started. And when everyone loses a kid or whatever the cause is, it's always a foundation for that one and for this one, instead of just, hey, let's all group together, you know, pool
Exactly.
of resources in the one thing and stop with this independent crap. It just, you get lost in the crowd.
I agree.
And
How
maybe
can
we need something like that. Each state needs a, you know, here we are. Here's a suicide prevention. Everybody, just go for it. You know,
how
here's
can
the
we
one page, here's one place to donate, whatever, and get a spokesman or two, but not go crazy and just have all these multiple, you know,
exactly?
avenues.
I absolutely agree with you.
Maybe
How
stronger, a bigger fist, you know.
Yeah, how can we collaborate as a community, right? Because there are so many organizations out there. Is it really necessary to recreate and reinvent some of the wheels that has already been there versus just, hey,
Yeah.
hey, you need help over for example, with Team Bully. Okay, maybe this is the organization. They have been around. They have helped a lot
Yeah.
of people. Go check them out, right? Versus everybody is trying to start something new and
Hmm.
it's I absolutely agree with you. And so I think the goal is first of all, raising awareness is the first step. Would you agree? Right?
Yeah.
And once we raise the awareness, definitely is to get the resource together and quite honestly with this, believe it or not, this conversation, I'm sure it helps a lot of people who will have the opportunity to take a look at this. And also, like what you're doing, True, you're helping a lot of other people with your experience, even though it's painful,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it brings a lot of help to other people that we would not imagine otherwise, right? And unfortunately, we cannot live in the rear view mirror. We can't. But it doesn't make it not painful. It will always be painful, right? But we have to march forward and we have to keep going,
Hmm.
right? And perhaps that we can still help those people who are still with us. And we do the best we can. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much. Anything else you want to add before we end the call? It's getting a little bit late for us.
Oh,
No, I'm thankful for this interview. I just appreciate what you're doing and, you know, safe journeys,
I will.
you know,
just
no more boo-boos.
just want everybody to know there's
No
somebody
more.
out there.
Yeah, I'm being very cautious. No more accident. And I've been very cautious. Most people are really good about it. And quite honestly,
Yeah.
whatever that accident happened, it was probably just something. I don't even know. But, it's been good. I'm really grateful. This has been sparking a lot of interest and raising a lot of awareness for people who haven't really been thinking about it, even though they're being impacted by it.
Yeah. Like think twice, you know. I know it's hard to say that when someone is in that frame of mind and they're in that much pain, but hey, give it an hour. You know, sometimes that despair only lasts a few minutes, and then yeah, okay, Kat, and then you know, something might happen, a different outlook, who knows what, you know, but I know that's probably hard for someone that's in that thing to go, oh yeah, that guy said, give it a, you know, take a time out and see what happens, but I just wish that yeah, that's a final answer, and it's a sucky answer. You
I
know, it's
agree. I agree with
just
you.
right.
And that's part of the reason why we want to have
You
these
know,
conversation right now, right? And that we reach to those people even before they're struggling, right? So when that they're struggling, they can remember they have something to draw from and say, you know what? Maybe there is a better alternative, right? Maybe it does not have to
yeah,
end up this way. Maybe I could do something else. And while life is never going to be easy, but you know what? We might have an opportunity to see something that is amazing. I would not imagine us having this conversation 3 months ago when things were falling apart for me, right? And I'm glad that I made a crazy decision, get a bicycle right across from Denver to Chicago, right? And the truth is just there's so much possibility out there. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but there is a possibility if we give ourselves a chance, if we give our life
Yeah.
a chance. Would you agree? Right? And
Hmm.
all these people who are struggling, the gal that I spoke to, her daughter, who is still struggling, but she is just like your son, helping other kids out who are struggling, right? And she is becoming that beacon that she's looking for in the world, right? And that's all we can do, right? We be that change that we want to see in the world, right? We can't say, oh, this is so important that we want to raise awareness. Hey, Bob, go do it, right? I mean, if Danny thinks it's important, guess what? Danny needs to get on the bike and ride it, not someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all these people that are struggling, it's while it's hard, but I think there is an opportunity. I think there is an opportunity if they allow themselves
Yeah.
to experience that. And I am very hopeful. I'm excited about that. That's what keeps me
Yeah.
pedaling every single day. If it's a lost cause, there's no reason for me to pedal. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lost
Yeah.
cause.
There's got to be another answer out there.
There is. There is hope. There is inspiration.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much again for your time. And you
All
have my
right.
phone
Yeah, I
number.
appreciate it.
Yeah, if there's anything
Yeah.
anytime, love to chat. I mean, while I'm on
If you
the
need a support truck, let me know.
what's that?
I'll follow you. If you need a support truck, I'll follow you.
You know what? We will have that conversation. We should. And honestly, I don't know if you know. So I know Alex kind of shared a little bit on the news story. So I'm starting a cycling team, and the goal. So I sold everything in Sacramento, right? And so my plan is actually to start a cycling team that all the riders eventually are going
Yeah.
to be people who survive mental health struggles and suicide. And while life feels like it's overwhelming, that it has to end a certain way, and people have a hard time surviving it. But the truth is, not only we have opportunity to survive these mental illness or suicide, but we really have opportunity to thrive and shine. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, right? But there is an opportunity, and eventually, I'm going to keep pedaling. I don't have this is open ended. I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to pedal, but I'll pedal as long as I can. And
Yeah.
eventually, I think about all these young people who are struggling, right? And maybe while cycling is not the answer to everything, but cycling does help creating what is that chemical in their brain that we need? It's called serotonin.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Serotonin.
you. Right, and
Orphans.
so yeah, serotonin, the happy chemical that we need in our brain, right? And so while that is not the solution to everything, but it definitely helps a lot, right? And we have this opportunity that, hey, maybe one day we will compete, in the world's biggest platform, that we can be that inspiration for those people who are still struggling and say, you know what? We acknowledge all the pain because we knew what it felt like. We knew, right? Because all of us went through it on different level, right? And we did
Yeah.
not we did not give up, and we did not just say, "Hey, life, just take me away," right? In fact, we say, "Hey, life, I'm not done with you. Don't go anywhere, right? I'm coming
Yeah.
for you."
Honestly, that's a hard one when I'm parent. I know I
I
struggled
I
with it.
hear you.
I
I hear
had
you.
those
Still.
thoughts. Yeah.
I know. But
Oh
we
yeah. Yeah. We both actually like the first week or 2 weeks we both said if you want to go I'll understand, and she said the same thing with me. We didn't really want to go on anymore.
I know it's painful.
Made an understanding pact to say if you want to go for it. you know
I know it's overwhelming. I don't.
and it's like
Yeah.
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 I know.
We got another son, and of course Megan is watching. I think he's watching too,
I know.
and this little thing here, and then we just became grandparents again. She's got a little brother that's a month old, so
I know.
yeah, we got to hang around now.
I know, true. I know, Bryce. You guys are very brave, and I definitely don't water down the pain that you guys are experiencing. I have no idea what it felt like, but I'm grateful
I'm
that.
in training for Santa this year.
What's that?
I'm in training for Santa this year.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, and I'm sure the little ones love to have you guys around. I'm sure.
Oh,
Yeah. So
she likes me.
there we go.
I know.
Who doesn't like Santa?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All righty. Well, hey, I appreciate it then. I mean, just call anytime. You know, like I say, if you need help. Oh boy.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Boy,
sure.
she woke up.
Sounds good, Bryce. All right, True. Have a good night, okay?
All right.
Nice
All
seeing
righty.
you
Thank
guys.
you.
God
You
bless you,
too.
man.
All right.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.